Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So we have also practicing with us tonight Reverend Gyoke Yokoyama, who is from Los Angeles. He represents the headquarters of Soto practice in Los Angeles and also has his own temple in Long Beach, California. He is also connected to temples in the Pacific Northwest in Canada. And we look forward to seeing him here more frequently, stopping by on his way through. And he will also be running a workshop for us in October, in the middle of October. Get the dates, the 14th, 11, 12, 13, 14.
11, 12. Yeah.
11, 12, okay. So we look forward to enjoying teaching from him at that time. So we are just back now after a month off. During the month of August, it's time for Buddha to sleep. So we have a small ceremony that puts a curtain across the Buddha statue and allows the Buddha to go into silence. It's also an interesting phenomenon right here, which happens everywhere, but we have so many birds in this area, and that in August, in the month of August, the birds go silent because they are gathering fat to take them through the winter for their movement to the south. And so it's incredibly silent and quiet during the month of August. And of course, we are not practicing at that time. And it's maybe a little bit strange for some who, are here every day for practice. And then suddenly the Zendo is closed. And we sort of wonder, what do we do next kind of feeling. But it's a very healthy thing to do, to take a break from the usual schedule that we have and to sort of clear the mind of all of the extraneous kinds of things that we've been carrying with us around practice and habitual kinds of things and just ways of thinking about practice. And we have an opportunity to let go of them and to feel the space of practice. We pay so much attention to the body in practice, posture, how we walk, our legs in sitting, and what we carry then during that interim, during the month of August, is a much more subtle mind of practice. We aren't really absent from it. We haven't gone anywhere. Well, some of us may have traveled, but still, wherever you go, there you are. We all know the title of that book. So the subtle mind is at work, holding the heart-mind together and teaching us in very subtle ways that we aren't necessarily quite conscious of. And yet it's a very important practice to be able to not feel dependent upon having to be on the cushion, to allow ourselves to trust the heart-mind that continues to carry the awakening practice. For me, I have been sitting Zazen for about 54 years now. And so the idea that I would have to sit every day, or that I would be compelled to sit every day, to me would be very false kind of practice. So me, I deeply value this time. When I go on holiday, I take a holiday. And I hope you do the same. I hope you have had a good holiday. Because it's a different kind of teaching. It's a different kind of experience of practice in knowing and truly trusting that what we felt And what we actually practiced becomes evident in our posture, the relaxed posture, as we allow ourselves to take a much more spacious way from the cushion. For me, my feeling is that practice gets very wide in that sense, that we pay attention to very different things then. We are free to go bicycle riding and ride with great flair down the trail, and with great freedom we go forward with whatever we undertake. So it's an important time. And then, of course, tonight we came back to the cushion, and for some of us it's a big shock to hear the Han. The Han is the hammer sound you heard. For new people, the da 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 da. And for those who are accustomed to it, it's a little bit of a shock to come back to it, to feel, oh my goodness, the discipline is here, or whatever we might be feeling, whatever we might be sensing, that insistence that calls us to the cushion. So all of a sudden we are back on the cushion again, in company with others, with the company of others with whom we never have left, actually, because we are in constant company with those around us in everything that we do, in the world that we live in. We are in constant company. No separation, and no, breathing and sharing cells together in this world, in this experience of being human. But here we are on the cushion again, and it feels pretty good, actually. It feels refreshed. We should come back with a sense of refreshment, and knowing that when you took up the practice, if you decided that that was for your whole life, that you're always going to come back to it and allow yourself those spacious times, that you will always come back to it. I certainly have that kind of trust about after, I don't know what else I would do at this point. After all these many years, it just is so natural. And it's natural in one sense, and it's also new every time we sit Zazen. So we have entered the practice of awakening. When we sit Zazen, or whatever we do in the Zendo, is the voice of awakening. It is the practice of awakening. And so that mind, then we can totally trust that we'll come back and we will refresh ourselves each time. The tradition is made new every time we sit. And for those of you who are new tonight, you can see that we have some traditional forms, some ways of practice here, but that is made new when we do it in this time and place. It's not something old that we drag from the past. It is made new by our activity, by our expression of awakening. So this invisible mind, so I said a few minutes ago that we concentrate so much on the body and the five senses, but it's the invisible mind, the mind of intuition, that I am most interested in, and I have no idea how to teach it. I don't know anybody who knows how to teach it. Maybe I'll ask Reverend Gyoke-san if he knows. Not right now, but soon. Because that is where the true mind of practice is practicing, in the invisible heart mind, the sense that we cannot see, that is not visible to us. And yet it is the most important aspect of practice, from my feeling. It is the opening to creativity. It is the opening to true meeting. Face-to-face meeting comes in the intuitive mind, the intuitive heart. It is what helps us go forward in life. It helps us to trust the decisions we have to make. It helps us to see into how to make those decisions. It helps us to relate to one another and to be able to see more deeply into the heart of one another too, so that we don't carry along these relational disturbances that we all go through, that we all have together. The intuitive mind lets us see more deeply into one another, into the teachings of Dogen's practice. Allows us to be made into an awakened body-mind. So I have no idea how to teach that. We can give instruction in saying, yes, hold your tanden strong back, sit up straight, shoulders relaxed, hold your hand posture in this way. And if you just do it, everything will be just fine. You'll sit wonderfully. But it's that invisible mind that is truly sitting, that is truly exploring the way to give us insight into our lives, to give us insight into how we harmoniously live together. And of course, intuition has such a bad name in our society. Women's intuition has been put down and smothered for as long as I've been alive. And that just came out of the past. Oh, well, it's just women's intuition. So we've kind of made it not a reliable thing, made it not worthy of insight, not worthy of examination and holding the importance and openness of it. Without our knowing, of course, the intuitive mind is being developed in Zazen. That mind is opening as we sit Zazen. We're not aware of it, but it is happening. And I tell you, it is so, makes such a rich life. It makes such a wide, open life, because in the intuitive mind, when we allow it, it's completely relational, and it opens to the entire universe, which of course what our Zazen is doing. Zazen is that expression of the universal as we hold that mudra. So it makes such a wide mind when we sit and allow that to be there. And of course, Dogen Zenji talks very much about space. Space is my favorite chapter in Shobogenzo. my very first teacher had something about him that when you went around him, you felt like the space opened so wide around him. It was an extraordinary experience to be with him. It wasn't something that he particularly was trying to do. It's just that his intuitive mind was so highly opened that when you're around him, it just, whoa, there was this feeling that the wide, wide world was right there, sitting in whatever room you were with him in. And that is there for us. That is entirely there for us. And it's through the intuitive mind that we are able to grok the teachings in Zen, able to grok Dogen Zenji's mind. So Reverend Gyoke, do you know how to teach the intuitive mind?
Oh, thank you. I was listening. I'm just so grateful. Every time I come to Zen Center, oh, by the way, nice to meet you, some of you, and good to see you. And thank you for having me. The directness Eidō Roshi has, in a way, I think we all know this intuitive mind, invisible mind, like the expression invisible mind. Coming from Japan, where all we hear and talk and listen to is, as she said, well, in our case, maybe more about where to bow, how to bow, which direction to bow, all about bows, and how to do things properly, how to serve tea. I think I was craving for this sort of directness, pointing whatever way. And yet, I think the way the practice unfolds is just as I said. Here's how you bow. Here's how you open your sutra book. Here's how you serve your tea, drink tea. Right. I feel like there isn't any way to teach this. Because if you try to do it, then something gets lost. I think that's the dilemma I think entire Western Zen is sort of struggling with.
Yes.
So many books are out there, literally forms. You can read it. There are tons of books. Yet this mind, invisible mind, how do we convey it? Because the books, readings don't always do the work that we expect it to. And actually it's a bit of a culture shock to me, because came here, well, it's merely 10 years ago, and everybody can grasp this, and we think we understand this, and yet the mind is not there yet. So actually, thanks to people like Eidō Roshi, other great teachers in the West, I have to admit things that I thought was meaningless in Japan, because I'm the baby in the family. So I have this thing, like, I have to know the meaning. I have to understand. This impossibility of conveying this is bringing me back to the East, the mind back to the East. And there are amazing teachers. Sorry, I didn't mean to just kind of
No,
step
that's fine. I mean, certainly practicing in Japan is quite different from practicing in America, where our culture expects everything to be explained. And that doesn't happen in Japan. You don't get any explanation for things. You're just shown this is how you do. You go forward. So you have to open that intuitive mind very quickly to be able to grasp and follow and try and understand why. That's the problem, is the question of why that we suffer from, is why do we do this? Why are you doing that? And the question that we really need to ask about our lives is how? How do we do our lives? How do we practice? And that is the heart, that is the more important question, how and not why. But we're full of why in our culture. Why should I do that? Why are you trying to tell me to do that? Why should I get that job? Why should I go to school? Why should I, right? It's all of that in our culture. And so we want explanations. And you don't get them in practice in Japan. You just throw yourself into it, and it's quite wonderful. You throw away the why mind.
Well, in my case, I threw myself into that how and came back with full of whys.
So I asked it when I was in training. I asked Eidō Roshi, the training master, why do we do that? Oh my goodness, he yelled and screamed at me and said, do that for 25 years, then you will know. So that's how my training went. So, but anyway, maybe you have a question. Maybe somebody's got a question, but not why. Yes, Dennis.
As far as how do you teach this, I think it's the teacher embodies it. And if the teacher embodies it and if the student is receptive, it's communicated. Because I think of my teacher, Geshe Dado. I can't explain it, I can't describe it, but I felt it.
Yeah.
And when in the presence of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I go, wow, there it is, right there. So yeah, I think it's something that can't be taught, but if the teacher embodies it, or if we embody it, and I felt it in the presence of other people, not necessarily formal teachers, but
Sure. But you must be open to it.
yeah,
So
the student also has to be
right,
ready.
right. That's a good way to say, to be ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah.